Thank you for joining me. I am not asking you to believe me. I am asking you to look at what you've been taught and see if there is something logical and reasonable with what you have been taught. So, what we're going to talk about today and tomorrow, you're not going to like it. I have a vast amount of Bible passages to prove to you that Jesus and God and the Holy Spirit are not all the same. And this is tough, I get it, but you have to answer logically and reasonably out of the scriptures, as separate from the few passages that lean in that direction. But by the preponderance of evidence, if this was a court of law, no one could claim that they were the same. No one. Jesus says himself that God is greater. That's what he says, and he makes a distinction. John 14:28. You have heard me say to you, and I am going away and coming back to you. If you loved me, you would rejoice because I said, I am going to the Father, for my Father is greater than I. Jesus says the Father is greater. If Jesus is the Father, why does he have to say, I'm going to the Father? That just doesn't make any sense. Jesus says, I'm going to the Father, and the Father is greater. They are not the same. In Hebrews, we see this passage here that speaks about Jesus having been perfected by what he endured. What does that make you think about what you've been taught? Here's what it says, Hebrews 5. I'm going to include verse 8, although that's not written down. Here's what it says. Though he was a son, yet he learned obedience by the things which he suffered, and having been perfected, he became the author of eternal salvation to all who obey him. So Jesus learned obedience, and having been perfected, he then becomes the author of eternal salvation. It tells us in the scriptures that Jesus is subject under God. Does that make any sort of sense that they would be equal? 1 Corinthians 15, verse 27 and 28, and here is what that says. For he has put all things under his feet, but when he says all things are put under him, it is evident that he who put all things under him is accepted. Now, when all things have been made subject to him, then the Son himself will also be subject to him who put all things under him, that God may be all in all. So Jesus is subject under God. Does that sound like they're the same? They're not. So if Jesus and the Holy Spirit and God are all the same, then how come blaspheming Jesus is forgivable, but blaspheming the Holy Spirit is not? Does that make any sort of sense to you? It doesn't make sense. It absolutely does not make sense if they're all the same. Matthew 12, 31 and 32 says this, Therefore I say to you, every sin and blasphemy will be forgiven men, but the blasphemy against the Spirit, it will not be forgiven men. Anyone who speaks a word against the Son of Man, it will be forgiven him. But whoever speaks against the Holy Spirit, it will not be forgiven him, either in this age or the age to come. That is what it says. It says the same thing in Mark 3, 28 and 29. Does that make any sense to you in the world in which you live, in the things that you've been taught? Let's go over here to Luke. This is 2, verse 52. Here's what it says. And Jesus increased in wisdom and stature and in favor with God and men. So Jesus had to learn some things. And it says that he increased in favor with God. Jesus and God and the Holy Spirit, they're not all the same. It tells us in John 3:22 that God's Spirit descended upon Jesus. If they're the same, why does he have to have Spirit descend upon him? That doesn't make sense. And for time purposes, it tells us in 1 Colossians 1:15, Christ is the image of the invisible God. An image of the Eiffel Tower is not the same as the Eiffel Tower. Plus, it says that God is invisible. Join me tomorrow. Armor up. We ride at dawn. May God bless you. As always, have a great day.